The studio lights blazed down on the set of Real Time with Bill Maher, casting sharp shadows across the sleek, modern desk where Bill sat, his signature smirk firmly in place. The audience buzzed with anticipation, their murmurs filling the air as the show's theme music faded and the cameras zoomed in. Tonight's guest was none other than Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, a figure whose every move sparked headlines and whose decision to step back from royal duties had polarized opinions across the globe. Bill, never one to shy away from controversy, leaned forward, his eyes glinting with mischief as he introduced his guest. Ladies and gentlemen, he's a prince, a veteran, and now a Montecito media mogul. Please welcome Prince Harry. The crowd erupted in applause, some cheering, others whispering skeptically, as Harry walked out, dressed in a sharp navy blazer and open-collared shirt, his expression a mix of confidence and wariness. He shook Bill's hand, their grip lingering a moment longer than necessary, as if each was sizing the other up. "So, Harry," Bill began, wasting no time, "you left the royal family, wrote a tell-all book, did the Oprah interview, the Netflix series. How's that whole 'we want privacy' thing working out for you?" The audience laughed, but Harry's smile tightened, his jaw clenching ever so slightly. "Bill, it's not about privacy in the way people think," he replied, his British accent crisp but measured. "It's about control over our narrative, about living authentically." Bill raised an eyebrow, leaning back in his chair. "Authentically? You're selling authenticity while living in a $14 million mansion and dropping Spotify deals like they're hot potatoes. That's a tough sell, mate." The crowd chuckled again, sensing the tension brewing. Harry shifted in his seat, his fingers tapping lightly on the armrest. "Look, we're trying to do good, to use our platform for change. Mental health, veterans, equality. You of all people should get that, Bill. You're not exactly shy about speaking your mind." Bill grinned, but it was a predator's grin, and the audience could feel the air shift. "Oh, I get it, Harry. I just think it's rich when you and Meghan play the victim card while cashing checks from Netflix. You can't have it both ways. A royal rebel and poor, oppressed prince." Harry's eyes narrowed, and he leaned forward, his voice low but firm. "You're oversimplifying it. You don't know what it's like to be born into the institution, to have your life scripted from day one." Bill didn't miss a beat. "And you don't know what it's like to earn a living without a title, so maybe don't lecture me on struggle." The crowd gasped, some clapping, others murmuring disapproval. As the exchange grew heated, Harry's face flushed, his military discipline warring with his emotions. "You think I haven't earned anything? I served in Afghanistan, Bill. I saw combat. What have you done besides sit behind a desk and make snarky comments?" The audience erupted, a mix of cheers and boos, as Bill's smirk faltered for a split second before returning full force. "Oh, we're going there, huh? Okay, let's talk about that service. Respect for it, absolutely, but don't use it as a shield when you're out here whining about your family on global TV." Harry's hands clenched into fists, his voice rising. "Whining? You call speaking truth to power whining? That's what's wrong with people like you. You mock vulnerability. You mock people trying to break free from toxic systems." Bill leaned in, undeterred. "Toxic systems? Harry, you were sixth in line to the throne, not exactly a sweatshop worker. You're not Nelson Mandela." The crowd roared, some loving Bill's bluntness, others cringing at the jab. Harry's face was now a mask of barely contained anger, his eyes locked on Bill's. "You're crossing a line, Bill. You don't get to trivialize my life or my wife's." Bill shrugged, unfazed. "I'm not trivializing anything. I'm saying you're a walking contradiction, and America's starting to see through it. Your approval ratings are tanking and Newsweek polls don't lie." Harry shot back, "Maybe I don't care about polls, maybe I care about doing what's right." The tension was palpable, the audience hanging on every word, as the stage manager signaled for a commercial break. Bill held up a hand, stopping Harry from continuing. "Hold that thought, Your Highness. We'll be right back after this." The cameras cut, but the atmosphere remained electric, the audience whispering about what might happen next. Offstage, producers exchanged worried glances, sensing the interview was teetering on the edge of chaos. Harry sat back, his chest heaving slightly, while Bill scribbled a note, his expression unreadable. This was no ordinary talk show segment. This was a clash of worlds, and it was only just beginning. As the commercial break ended, the real-time set buzzed with a restless energy, the audience eager to see how the confrontation between Bill Maher and Prince Harry would unfold. The cameras rolled again, and Bill dove right back in, his tone sharp but playful, like a fencer testing his opponent's defenses. "Welcome back, folks. We're here with Prince Harry, who's apparently ready to storm the Bastille over his family drama." The crowd laughed, but Harry's expression was steely, his earlier warmth replaced by a guarded intensity. "Bill, you're good at twisting things, aren't you?" he said, his voice calm but laced with defiance. "You make it sound like I'm just throwing tantrums, but you're ignoring the bigger picture of the racism, the control, the way the institution chews people up." Bill tilted his head, his eyes narrowing. "Racism? Okay, let's go there. You dropped that bomb in the Oprah interview, and yeah, it was a big deal, but you didn't name names, Harry. You left the world guessing, which, let's be honest, is a great way to keep the headlines churning." Harry's jaw tightened again, his hands now still, as if he'd found a new resolve. "You think I wanted those headlines? You think I enjoyed watching my wife get torn apart by the press? We spoke out because we had to, because no one else would." Bill leaned back, crossing his arms. "Had to? Harry, you could have gone quietly, done your charity work, lived your California dream. Instead, you're on Netflix, Spotify, writing books about your brother's bald spot. That's not truth to power, that's a brand strategy." The audience gasped, some laughing, others shifting uncomfortably, as Harry's eyes flashed with anger. "You're wrong, Bill. You don't get it. The press hounded us, lied about us, dehumanized us. We had to take back our story." Bill smirked, undaunted. "Take back your story? You mean monetize it?" "Look, I'm not saying you didn't face crop and Meghan especially, no question, but you're not exactly starving artists. You're playing the Hollywood game while crying about the spotlight." Harry leaned forward, his voice rising, each word deliberate. "You call it a game? My wife was suicidal, Bill. My family ignored it. The institution ignored it. You think that's a game?" The crowd fell silent, the weight of Harry's words hanging heavy in the air. Bill paused, his smirk fading slightly, but he recovered quickly. "I'm sorry she went through that, truly, but you're not helping your case by turning your pain into a docuseries. You're feeding the machine you claim to hate." Harry shook his head, his voice now a low growl. "You're so cynical, Bill. You think everyone's just chasing clout. Some of us are trying to make a difference, to help people who feel trapped like we did." Bill pounced, sensing an opening. "Help people? By what? Selling $200 Archewell candles? Come on, Harry, you're not Mother Teresa. You're a royal who traded Buckingham Palace for a Montecito mansion, and now you're mad the world isn't bowing." The audience erupted again, some cheering Bill's audacity, others booing his harshness. Harry's face was a storm of emotions: anger, frustration, but also a flicker of doubt, as if Bill's words had struck a nerve. "You don't know me, Bill," he said, his voice quieter now, almost pleading. "You don't know what it's like to lose your mother to the press, to watch your wife go through the same thing." Bill softened for a moment, his tone less biting. "I don't. You're right. Losing Diana was horrific, and I get why you're protective, but you're not the only one with a tough story. You're just the loudest about it." Harry's eyes glistened, and for a moment, it seemed he might break, but he straightened up, his military training kicking in. "Maybe I am loud, Bill. Maybe that's what it takes to be heard." The crowd applauded, some moved by Harry's vulnerability, others still skeptical. Bill nodded, almost respectfully, but couldn't resist one last jab. "Heard? Sure, but are people listening, or are they just watching the drama?" The tension was unbearable, and the audience could sense the interview was on a knife's edge. Harry's hands gripped the armrests, his knuckles white, as he struggled to keep his composure. Bill, ever the provocateur, seemed ready to push further, but the stage manager signaled another break, the lights dimming as the show cut to commercials. The audience buzzed, some shouting support for Harry, others chanting Bill's name, as the two men sat in silence, their eyes locked in a silent battle. Offstage, producers scrambled, whispering about whether to cut the segment short. While social media was already exploding with clips of the exchange, hashtags like #Harry vs. Mar trending worldwide, this wasn't just an interview anymore, it was a cultural moment, and it was far from over. The real-time set was a pressure cooker as the show returned from its second commercial break, the audience's energy now a volatile mix of excitement and unease. Bill Maher, ever the master of controlled chaos, leaned into the moment, his voice dripping with sardonic charm. "All right, folks, we're back with Prince Harry, who's apparently ready to take on the entire British monarchy and me in one night." The crowd laughed nervously, sensing the stakes had risen. Harry, his face a mask of determination, sat rigidly, his earlier vulnerability replaced by a steely resolve. "Bill, you keep framing this as me against the world, but it's not that simple," he said, his tone measured but firm. "I'm not fighting for myself, I'm fighting for my family, for my kids, for everyone who's been hurt by systems that don't care." Bill tilted his head, his expression a mix of curiosity and skepticism. "Systems, huh? You mean the royal family? Because, Harry, you've been pretty clear about throwing them under the buse of your dad, your brother, the whole lot. You call that fighting for family?" Harry's eyes flashed, but he kept his voice steady. "I call it holding people accountable. If you love your family, you don't just stay silent when they're wrong. You speak up, even when it's hard." Bill smirked, leaning forward. "Accountable sounds noble, but let's be real, you're not exactly dragging them to The Hague. You're writing books and doing interviews that make bank. How's that not just settling scores with extra steps?" The audience chuckled, but Harry didn't flinch. "You think it's about money? You think I'd put my kids through this scrutiny for a paycheck? It's about survival, Bill. It's about making sure my wife and children aren't destroyed by the same machine that took my mother." The mention of Diana silenced the room, the weight of her tragedy still raw, even decades later. Bill nodded, his tone softening slightly. "I get it, Harry. Diana's death was a global gut punch. Nobody's arguing that. But you're not Diana, and Meghan's not Diana. You're choosing to stay in the spotlight, and you can't blame the press when you're the one scheduling the photo ops." Harry's voice rose, his frustration spilling over. "Photo ops? You think we want paparazzi chasing us? We left the UK to escape that, and it followed us here. You have no idea what it's like to live under that pressure." Bill didn't back down, his eyes gleaming with the thrill of the debate. "Pressure, Harry? You're preaching to a guy who's been cancelled more times than your Netflix deal." "I know pressure. The difference is, I don't cry about it, I own it." The crowd roared, some clapping for Bill's bluntness, others murmuring in support of Harry's passion. Harry shook his head, his voice now a mix of anger and exasperation. "You're impossible, Bill. You twist everything into a punchline. This isn't a comedy routine for me, this is my life." Bill leaned in, his tone sharp but not unkind. "And that's the problem, Harry. You're treating your life like a soap opera, and the world's eating it up. You're not a private citizen, you're a brand, and you're leaning into it, whether you admit it or not." Harry's face flushed, his hands balling into fists again. "A brand? You think I wanted this? I wanted a normal life, Bill. I wanted to raise my kids without fear, to love my wife without the world tearing her apart." Bill raised an eyebrow, unrelenting. "Normal? You're a prince, Harry. Normal went out the window the day you were born. You don't get to play everyman when you're flying private jets to climate conferences." The audience gasped, some laughing, others booing, as the jab landed hard. Harry's voice cracked, his composure slipping. "You're so full of it, Bill. You sit here, mocking people's pain, acting like you've got all the answers. You don't know what it's like to lose everything in your home, your family, your safety." Bill paused, his expression unreadable, then fired back. "Lose everything? You've got a mansion, a wife, 2 kids, and a Netflix deal. Cry me a river, Your Highness." The crowd exploded, the noise deafening, as Harry stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. "I'm done," he said, his voice shaking with rage. "You don't get to talk to me like that." The audience gasped as Harry ripped off his mic, tossing it onto the desk, and stormed offstage, his footsteps echoing in the stunned silence. Bill sat back, unfazed, and looked at the camera. "Well, folks, looks like we hit a nerve. We'll be right back." The show cut to commercial, but the chaos was just beginning, as social media lit up with clips of Harry's walkout, the internet dividing into camps of those cheering his stand, and those calling it a tantrum. Producers rushed backstage, trying to coax Harry back, but the damage was done. This was no longer just a talk show, it was a global spectacle. Backstage at Real Time, the atmosphere was a whirlwind of panic and adrenaline as producers scrambled to manage the fallout from Prince Harry's dramatic exit. The audience, still buzzing from the confrontation, whispered furiously, their phones already recording reactions for TikTok and X, where #Harry storms off was trending within minutes. Bill Maher, still seated at his desk as the commercial break stretched on, scribbled notes with a calm that belied the chaos around him, his producers urging him to tone it down when the show resumed. "Tone it down?" Bill said, chuckling. "The guy walked off my show. That's not my fault. He couldn't handle the heat." Meanwhile, Harry paced in the green room, his face a storm of emotions, his phone buzzing with texts from Meghan urging him to stay calm. "I shouldn't have come here," he muttered to his team, his voice thick with frustration. "He's just like the rest of them, twisting everything, making it a circus." His aide, a seasoned PR handler, tried to soothe him. "Harry, you held your ground. People will see your passion, your authenticity. Let's just get through this." But Harry shook his head, his hands trembling slightly. "Authenticity? That's what I'm fighting for." And he made it a joke. Back on set, the cameras rolled again, and Bill addressed the audience with his trademark candor. "Well, folks, it seems Prince Harry's had enough of me for one night. Can't say I blame him, I'm an acquired taste." The crowd laughed, but there was an edge to it, a sense that things had gone too far. "Look, I respect Harry's service, his heart, but you don't get to storm off when someone calls you out. That's not how this works." Bill's tone was light, but his words carried weight, and the audience was split, some nodding in agreement, others murmuring disapproval. Social media was ablaze, with ex-posts calling Harry fragile and others praising him for standing up to Bill's bullying. One post read, "Harry just proved he's got more spine than the royals he left behind. Respect." Another countered, "Spoiled prince can't handle a real debate. Run back to Montecito." Backstage, Harry's team debated whether he should return to the set, but his resolve was firm. "I'm not going back out there to be Bill's punching bag," he said, his voice steady now, his anger giving way to clarity. "He doesn't get to define me." His aide nodded, already drafting a statement for the press, while Harry pulled out his phone, typing a quick message to Meghan, "I'm okay." Just couldn't let him keep twisting it. On set, Bill pivoted to his next segment, a panel discussion, but the energy was off, the audience still reeling from the clash. "Let's talk about something less royal, shall we?" Bill quipped, introducing his guests, but the elephant in the room was undeniable. Clips of the argument were already racking up millions of views online, with pundits dissecting every word, every gesture. Some called it a masterclass in Bill's provocateur style, others a low blow against a man trying to rebuild his life.